Hi guys, welcome to our book club. Today is the second session of our experts level. Remember that we are reading Inside, why we are not as self-aware as we think, and how seeing ourselves clearly help us succeed at work and in life. Written by Tasha Erich. This video will cover chapter number 3 and chapter number 4. So without anything else to say, let's begin.
Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll
Welcome back, guys. As I told you in the introduction, today we will cover other two chapters from this book. But before starting with chapter number 3, let's remember what happened in previous chapters. So remember that everything begins with soldier that he wasn't aware about what was he able to do and what he wasn't. So the author begins to ask herself like why some people are conscious or self-aware and why others not. So because of that, she started research, and she discovered little by little that anybody can change her life if they become self-aware. That self-awareness means to be like in balance, knowing yourself and knowing how you affect others, how your behavior affect others. So at the beginning, the first chapter, we just saw that sometimes we are a little bit unconscious about ourselves. We had some examples, and then we through the research of this author, we know that there are some unicorns, as she called them. Those are people who found the balance and they became self-aware, so they achieve success in life. So we have seen through different kind of examples how people became self-aware, and among all the things that they could have, the author mentioned 7 pillars. So she says that if we know clearly what are our 7 pillars, we are already on the other side. But before discovering them, sometimes we have to sort some obstacles. So in this new chapter, we will start talking about some obstacles. So let's just start then. As you may see, I am already sharing my screen. So we have chapter number 3, and its name is Blind Spots. That it means puntos ciegos. So, well, it is what I told you about the obstacles. So first of all, we have this quote, and I want you to notice that we have ain't. So ain't, it's a very colloquial way of saying negative. It's a negative auxiliary. So it just means no. So it says like you are not in troubles because of the thing because of the you are just 1 second. Yeah, like you are not in troubles because of the reason you think. It's probably because of something that you don't know. So this is a negative, a very colloquial negative way of saying no. And well, we have this quote just at the beginning. So the author begins, as we have noticed, with a lot of examples with some anecdotes, and this time she begins with Steve. So Steve is it's a person that works in a company, and recently he was raised. So he received a raise, so he is new in that position. He is very capable, but he starts to believe that he was the chosen one, that he is like the perfect person for that position. So he started his ego started growing, and as a consequence he started yelling to his employees, and the environment became a little bit like hostile. And as a consequence of that, he didn't have the results, or he hasn't had the results that he was looking for. So that's why like the his boss hire the author in order to help Steve to change something, you know. So when the author met Steve, she listened to him, and finally she said like, okay, we have a very serious case. And she said that when people don't know how they are affecting them, and also that sometimes they believe their skills are more than what they say, the author mentioned that we start in a delusional state, that we don't believe what is real or what is not. We just believe what we want, and that's it. And she started mentioning that this is a very common case in the world. And as an example, she says, you know, she mentions this very famous scene from The Sixth Sense, when the little boy says, I see dead people. Well, the author says, like, oh, I see delusional people everywhere. Because she starts explaining that we have, for example, that mom that says like, oh, we have to be respectful, and I am not racist, I am not this, but her action says something else. Or when we have, you know, like the parents that they are teaching or they are telling their sons to save money, but they waste their money every time they could. Or we have also, you know, like some examples that sometimes people that they think they know a lot, usually they have the CEO position sometimes, or very high positions, and that means that sometimes the earnings is not equal to the skills. So sometimes people pay more just because of the title, not because of the skills. So she's, you know, like talking a little bit about in life how there are delusional people. They believe what is not real. And she says that, you know, like all these delusional people, they suffer from the Steve disease. But the Steve disease, it's curable. So she says that in order to understand what is, you know, like this, she says that, for example, in the past when we were kids, we believe we were the center of the universe, but little by little when we were teenagers we wanted to look for our place in the world. So we started being a little bit more like like doing this introspection work, and at the end we discover that we are very complex. If we do it correctly, we start, you know, like having self-awareness. If we don't do it, well, you know, like we will have a lot of work to do later on. So you know, like the author is mentioning a lot of things, but she says that sometimes when people think they have skills like superior than the rest, most of the times it's wrong. So, for example, if you believe that you are good at soccer just because you have played with your neighbors and with your friends, your close friends, and you say like, "Oh, I am really good. I have, you know, like very nice skills in soccer." Probably you just need to play with people outside your circle. You need to be in contact with other people that do or like doing the same, so you can really know if you are good at something or not. So she says that most of the times, you know, like people tend to believe that they have better skills or they are, you know, like a little bit higher than the rest. And she said that that is the Dunning-Kruger effect. So all this part that we have here, I'm so sorry, it's about Steve. So then she started, you know, like this is, you know, like the scene I told you from, you know, like from Sixth Sense. And then we have, you know, like the Steve disease, when people is blind, they are not self-aware. And he, like she started describing that it's a severe problem, but it is completely curable. So let's see what else, like this, the Dunning-Kruger effect. And as always, we have a lot of examples. The example that we have here, if I'm not mistaken, it's about the puzzle. Let's see. Oh, check it. Like it says, while the capacity for self awareness exists in nearly all human beings, absolutely no one is born with it. So, like, firstly, when we were kids, we thought that we were the center of the universe. And then when we are teenagers, we start having a little bit of this self awareness, and we just realize that we are very complex. And that's, like what it describes here. So we have here this example from Susan Hatters from The Construction of Self. Should really take you back to that fun process. So this paragraph is describing how it is to be a teenager and how complex we are at that time, and how we start becoming a little bit self-aware of us. So it says, what am I like? What am I like as a person? You're probably not going to understand. I'm complicated. At school, I'm serious, even studious. But I am good off too because you are too studious, you won't be popular. My parents expect me to get all A's and get pretty annoyed with me. So I'm usually pretty stressed out at home and can even get very sarcastic. But I really don't understand how I can switch so fast from being cheerful with my friends, then coming home and feeling anxious, then getting frustrated and sarcastic with my parents. Which one is the real one? So, with this, it just trying to, as I commented to you, to describe how complex we are when we are during our teen years. So later on, it says, like as we approach our second decade on Earth, we start to organize these conflicting self perceptions into more cohesive theories. Just because I'm shy around people I don't know doesn't mean I am not mostly outgoing. So just because like I am shy with people I don't know, that doesn't mean that I don't like doing other kind of activities, or like I don't like telling jokes. Maybe I am a little bit open or more open with my friends. So then after that, oh yeah, she says that when we are a little bit like into the adulthood, if you already started this self-awareness journey when you were a teenager and you continue with it, you can become an unicorn. But if you just like stop doing that self-aware trip, probably you are just a normal person. So as an example, we have like the three blind spots, because remember that the author want us to achieve that balance. So she's telling about the most or the principal blind spots. And as an example, we are in jail, and she said like, okay, once I did a test in a jail, and I told the prisoners to write in a paper. It says a list of 9 positive personality traits, and ask them to rate themselves on each in comparison to two groups: average prisoners and average non-incarcerated community members. So she gave a paper with like these words, and they needed to rate themselves. So what she discovered is that a lot of people, like they start like, oh, this is okay, this is okay, this is okay, but in this law abiding, that it will be like skipping the law. So people say, it says, the one exception, threat number one. I'm sorry, number 9. According to Sedikits, like I guess it is the name of a person. Inexplicably, they rated themselves as equally law abiding compared to community members. Don't think about that for too long or or your head will explode. Trust me. So, they simply said like, "Oh, yeah, I can respect law, I can skip law." And they were in jail. So at the end, like we know that they break the rules. So that's why, the results were surprising. And after this, that is, what the what what the author mentions here. So we have then that because of that, we have the three blind spots. So we will start learning about them. The first one is the knowledge blindness. And in order to understand a little bit this example, she's telling us that, like in a game, in a baseball game, everybody says, like, oh, like some experts were talking about the teams that would arrive to the finals, and everybody chose according to the statistics and information they had, etc., because they were experts. They mentioned some teams, but nobody really thought about the rest. They were like, oh, those are the favorite ones, so those are the ones that will arrive. And at the end, two other teams arrived to the final and nobody thought about them. So the author is asking herself why. It's supposedly they are experts. So that's why she said that the first obstacle is knowledge blindness. Sometimes when we think we know so much about a topic, we tend to be blind to continue, like accepting information, or simply we say like, oh, I'm an expert. I already have all the information. So you are very close. You are very, like blind. And well, she mentions that. And what else she says? Oh, yeah, I think, like that is the example. And then we have the second obstacle, that is the emotion blindness. As an example, she says that once in a study, people were asked, how happy are you? Are you happy? Like, can you scale from 1 to 10? And some people said, like, oh, 10, 7, yeah. But they were thinking about the moment. Like, how are you? How do you feel right now? And, well, like the author is explaining that sometimes the brain is very lazy. So it tends to just, like a gut feeling, like, reacting. So, how are you? Happy? Nice. Just, like by instinct, no, because you are really thinking about it. So she says that sometimes we are blind emotionally because we really don't stop and think seriously about what we want. We just, like have a reaction. So that's why she said that the second obstacle is emotion blindness. And we continue. All this is the experiment that I told you about. It says, like the main danger of emotion blindness is that we often make decisions, even important ones, from a place of emotion without even realizing it. So it's what I told you, that sometimes we react in order to just take a moment and really think seriously about what we have to decide. So later on, we have the third obstacle, that is behavior blindness. And as an example, we have that the author, once she was giving a speech, but like she didn't feel the public in the right mood. So all the time, even though if she was giving the speech, she was thinking like, oh no, people is not laughing. Oh no, that joke was bad. Oh no, they are bored. So at the end, she said that she finished and she said like goodbye, and she ran away. But later on, she realized that everybody congratulated her on her speech, and that was a very nice conference, or yeah, conference, because a lot of people joined her newsletter. So that's why she said like, oh, okay, so probably it was just, like my head. And she said that sometimes those are the behaviors that like make us blind. um what else it says? um like here, as another example, she says that some students, let's just read. It says they were then asked to watch the video. Oh, sorry. It says in one study, participants were given a series of personality tests and videotape making a brief speech. They were then asked to watch the video and identify the nonverbal behaviors. Things like eye contact with the camera, gestures, facial expressions, and voice volume. Because the participants could see themselves from the same angle than others, could could the researchers predictor what? Yeah, that others could the researchers predicted that their ratings would be fairly accurate. But shockingly, the ratings failed to match up with those of an objective observer, even when they were offered money for correct answers. Okay, so the experiment says that we are very critical with ourselves. So even if they were offered money to answer correctly, they were very critic. So that's why I said like, oh, this is like probably not useful. So at the end of this paragraph, we just like return with Steve, and she mentions that Steve disease is actually a combination of the three blind spots. That remember that is knowledge blindness, emotion blindness, and behavior blindness. So the three of them is what the Steve disease is. What else we have? Let's just oh yeah, she's saying that in order to break or to yeah, to break these obstacles, or to overcome these obstacles, we have to be braver but wiser, because she says that sometimes it is necessary to be a little bit delusional. So let's see, where does it say? It says braver but wiser. Like she is saying that braver but wiser. Yeah, for example, like the Greek myth of Icarus in an apt metaphor. So, not flying very close to the sun, but also not very close to the sea, like in the middle. So, that's, like braver but wiser. And it says when it comes to the way we see ourselves, we must be brave enough to spread our wings, but wise enough not to fly too high. So, what the author is trying to say is that we need to recognize some behaviors, and like trying to do something about it. So let's just say it, because at the beginning she says exactly. So it says the first step in order, like to overcome the three blind spot, it is to identify our assumptions. So as an example, she says that in another test, in another experiment, some people were given a puzzle. So the participants were like, a puzzle, how easy, this is for kids. But little by, and they were like given like certain amount of time in order to finish it. So they were laughing like, oh, this is silly, this is not for me. But later on, when they started to do it, it was difficult. They couldn't do it, and almost anybody finished it. And people who finished it, it was because they were like flipping the pieces. So they realized that in order to complete it, you needed to turn to flip some pieces. And the author is trying to say that sometimes we assume something is very easy, or something like we underestimate some activities or some stuff because we think we know some assumptions. So first of all, we have to identify them. That is the first, the first step to start breaking those obstacles. And then we have, let's see. Um, well, let's just, read this part so we will understand what does it say here. It says, together with his colleague Donald Sean, I don't know, Argyris Lavelet this type of thinking, one in which we fail to seek data that confronts our fundamental assumptions of ourselves and the world single loop learning. So it says that, when we just learn something but we don't confirm it, we are just with a single loop learning. That's why it is necessary to have a double loop learning, because it says it involves confronting our values and assumptions. So for example, um, if you learn how to make some candles, or you have at least the theory, and that's it, you never try, you never confront what you know. So once you go to a course and you realize that maybe you knew the theory but it was incomplete. So that is the double loop learning, when we confirm what we know. And it says that a way to the double loop learning and to fight against our assumptions is to get into the habit of comparing our past predictions with actual outcomes. So we can start writing like a list, and we say like, oh, okay, what is different now? Or if we have, like a project, the author says that sometimes it is good to ask yourself like, okay, imagine that it's already, like it happened a year. What kind of problems do you think you will see throughout that year? So, she mentions that in that way we can like see if every our assumptions were real or not, were based on something or not. And it says that, like a second technique to minimize our blind spot is simply to keep learning. So she says that every time we are interested in something, it's okay that you feel you are an expert, but don't forget that there's always room for improvement. So it is always good to ask, to confirm, to continue learning for more methods or more perspectives. And it says, the more I think I know, the more I need to learn. And that's right, like that guy that says, I just know that I don't know anything, he was so right. Let's continue, and it says that the third step, the third like tip that will help us to break our obstacles is to seek feedback on our abilities and behaviors. So, like here, she says that it's okay to ask if you did well or not, because it is necessary to see as well how people perceive us. So, how we, affect others. So I remember, let's see if if we're just, like invite with Steve. Yes, exactly. So we just come back with Steve, and she's saying that, like, remember, Steve was in this new position and he thought he was the chosen one for that, and he was very strict, and he was very like very mean. He used to yell at his employee and more. So that's why the author just, like arrived to scene. And with Steve, like he was very close to receive all this feedback, but he realized that he wasn't having the result he was looking for, and also all that bad energy, all that kind of um, like stress, he was affecting also his house, his family. So like that's why she says that we need to be like seeking feedback in our abilities and behaviors. So she says that a little by little, like Steve was open to feedback, so she could help him to change a little bit the way he was expressing and he was giving feedback. And as a consequence, he finally achieved his goals. And at the same time, he just, like came back to a very relaxing family environment. Um, So that is the ending of chapter number 3. And then we will start with chapter number 4, that is talking about the cult of self. So here we have the sinister societal roadblock to insight. Again, we have another quote that it says, "We have fallen in love with our own image, with images of our own making, our of our making." Sorry, let me just read again. "We have fallen in love with our own image, with images of our making, which turn out to be images of ourselves." So it said just like my image, my this, I did it, and I did, and this, and it just my, me, I, myself. So let's start, and let's see, because we have also an example. Oh yeah, the chapter begins with the author giving us a hockey scene. So she's like this person and this person and this person and this person, and she says like, "I know you didn't understand, but I want you to see like the name of the players." And she started the chapter by explaining us that in the past people used to name their babies with normal names, very common names. That's why we have a lot of Marias, that's why we have a lot of Pedros, etc., etc. But in the last years, people wanted to become a little bit more unique through their names. So that's why the race of strange or um, uncommon names raised in the last years, in the last decades. So she's mentioning that, and that's so true, because I remember that in the past we have a lot of Marias, and right now we have a lot of Brians, and we have a lot of um well, it depends, like what person is trending, but we have a lot of unique names. And she says that everything began with our names. So because we are uniques in our names, we also are unique. So that's why she says, like this is the call of self. And she says, let's just read a little bit what is the call of self. It says, "Calls tend to show a misplace of excessive admiration for a particular person or thing, and this call had chosen an irresistible figurehead, you. Frankly, it's easy to see why the promise that the call of self makes can be too tempting to resist. It lulls it lulls it lulls us into thinking that we are unique, special, and superior, that our needs matter more than everyone else's, that we are not that we are not subject to the same rules as other people are, so that we are special in all senses." And it says that, like in the past, it wasn't like that. She says, and she called it the age of effort, because like you needed, it says, values emphasize modesty and humility. So we really needed to respect, we needed to be, like doing our best. We weren't unique. People didn't say like, "Oh, good job." No, 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 you needed to work hard every day, all the time. So she says that that happened because of the war. So when we didn't have wars, okay, so it says the age of effort fostered a collective mentality that shunned the glorification of the self. So, it says that after all this age of effort, it says the age of esteem began. That is when, all um, this movement about you being important started. And she mentions with all these kind of things that being so selfish is not new. This is an idea, or this is a behavior that has begun since a long time ago. It's just that right now, since we have social media, it is a little bit easier to show it. And that's why I don't remember where it says. Because this is important to mention that at the end, let's see. Oh, here it says. So, the age of esteem, it started around the 1950s. And at the end, they discovered that, unconditional positive regard. So at the end, it wasn't necessary to really, really know yourself. It says, conveniently, self esteem was just one rung down, and all that was needed to achieve it was a change in mindset. In other words, we didn't need to become great. All we really had to do was feel great. So that's why, all these self-esteem, all this esteem era began, because at the end it was easier to just feel good and not really doing this hard work that is about self-awareness. So we have here as an example, we have the name of a school. Well, it says, here is another study, and they said that they started a campaign that says that if you have enough self-esteem, so you will be a good person, so the crime will be over. And that's a lie, because they discovered that people who have that people who had high self-esteem, they were usually more violent. They were usually liars, or people, a little bit meaner, bullies. And well, that's why it says that all this self-esteem movement, it wasn't really like the best thing. So it says, it's far easier to feel wonderful and special than to become wonderful and special. So that was the movement about. And yeah, exactly. We start talking about a school in Barrowford, that it says it is a town in the northwest of England. And the author mentions that in that place, long time ago, some witches were judged and were killed. They were hung. So, the author says, that tourists, when they visit that place, probably they don't think about the witches, but they think about, in that place there are no bad boys, because there is a school that says that you cannot say that to a kid, because every kid is special. So there are not bad behaviors, it's just people that need to learn something. So they have some methods. And the author mentions that one time they did a test, and the students who failed the test, they really didn't fail. They just had an extra note that says that probably that test wasn't enough to really measure their skills because they were so special. And that's why that school was very criticized and judged. But like the principal says, like, okay, I want to continue doing this. So we have that. And well, in conclusion, is the example wanted to demonstrate that when we grew up with or when we grow up with like this positive environment, and we are exposed just to positive feedback, we became more aware about ourselves in a selfish way, and less aware about the rest of the world, of other people. So we believe that we are just the only important ones, and that is not true. So we continue with the next. Well, it says, like feel good effect, that it has a lot of consequences because people prefer just to be blind about whatever they are, and they just want to feel good. As example of this, she says that in the last years, she saw like an increment in Spanish we will say in dieces, like in really nice notes, that it will be the A or A plus. And she said like, oh, okay, maybe it's because students are better now, but probably it is in deep. And she said like, at the end, probably that is the most reasonable answer. It's because it happened to a lot of schools that little by little they start giving like these better notes that in the past. So there was an increment, an increasement, no, an increasing. And that's why she called the feel good effect. So the author also mentioned that it's necessary that people say simply, you are a loser. And it is necessary in order to learn some lessons. So she mentions that related with receiving feedback, it is good. It is here. Mm, I think it is not here. Well, she mentions, let me see, maybe I will spoil you. Oh, it's not here. Review, collective. I think it's not here. Well, because I was just, like telling you, I was just about to tell you that the author mentions Putter view. No, I don't think it's here. Mm-mm. Well, let's just, like retake it again. So we were discussing about. Oh, okay. I know what is the part. Okay, okay, okay. No, it's not this the part I wanted to explain to you. So let's just like follow the 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 chapter. So the author mentions here that sometimes being like this feel good effect, if we take it to the extreme, it could be also harmful for us. Because imagine that you have an exam, but you simply says like, oh, okay, I don't want to present that exam, I just want to go to an audition. So you drive for hours in order to go to the audition and not to your exam. The author mentions that even if we like think that would be good, we are not seeing the whole panorama, that not attending to our exam will affect our future, will affect us in the future. So that's why she says that it is important to not being so delusional. However, she says that it is okay that we use some pink color glasses once in a while in order to keep us positive and motivated to do something. So she's mentioning here an example about a person that she was fired or she had a problem and she took a week in order to recover. So she used the red color glasses because she wasn't thinking about the problem. She was just, like living. This is stressing. And after it, like she came back to reality. So the author says that it's okay to use those kind of glasses once in a while in order to help us, but it is always necessary to stop using them, because otherwise you become, like 100% delusional. And it says that when you should take those glasses off, and it says that when there's no room for failure. So it says, let's just read this. It says, when we need to bounce back from constant challenges or where we can succeed through sheer persistence, the feel good effect can be helpful. So we have a lot of challenges to overcome, like having this good effect, like I am good, I am this, I am that, will can help us, but it is always necessary to know when to stop. It says, sometimes life can be, sometimes life can handle challenges so difficult that we need rose colored glasses to help us get through them. Our unicorns echo this sentiment. One put his self awareness journey on pause when he was unexpectedly fired. Another found her divorce so devastating that some strategic, blissfully ignorance got her through the worst parts. So she says that sometimes it is necessary, but again, it is always good to know when to stop. So she says that, like when to stop, where failure is not an option and you don't have the luxury of blissful ignorance. So, like you have to do it. That's it. And we start, like another example. And she says that in this situation, she is in Hawaii. After, like working so hard for a very long time, she and her husband had time for some vacation, so they decide to go to Hawaii. And they are about to have breakfast with this beautiful view and this beautiful hotel and everything, when suddenly, like two young people enter the scene. And the author and her husband, they are watching the couple because it is a couple, and the girl start, like first of all, like doing some noises that like ruin the environment. And then she was, like being very noisy. They were laughing too loud. And lastly, the girl like took, I don't know, like 15 minutes to take the perfect selfie. So the author is explaining or telling us that she felt very upset, like she didn't like, like her attitude, because she wasn't thinking about the rest, that, like everybody was trying to relax, and probably the couple, they weren't the only one in the hotel, so they needed to behave. So that's why she said that sometimes we are just focused on ourselves, and that's why she said the selfie syndrome. Oh, because, like she took a lot of selfies. So what the author is explaining here is that sometimes people on social media, they tend to share more than necessary. So she started explaining that um, you have to ask yourself what kind of people do you want to be. If do you want to share your life, or if you want to share, like other kind of things. So in order to avoid being so selfish, we can ask some questions. And also the author is mentioning that the person who are always, like focused on uploading pictures, they are usually the ones that need more self-awareness. So it says here, but what we don't always realize is that paradoxically, an intense self focus not only obscures our vision of those around us, it distorts our ability to see ourselves for what we really are. So, when you are so focused on you, you stop looking at the rest, and also the way you look at you, it could be not the right one. And like here she is talking about social media. And what does it say here? Mm-mm-mm-mm. Self syndrome isn't a generational phenomenon. As she mentioned it before, but she says that like between 1790 and 2012 20,000, she found a decrease in the use of other related words like his, her, and neighbor. And they changed for I, me, and mine. So we became more possessive and we became more selfish. What else does he say here? Well, she mentions that like social media right now, it just to talk about ourselves, to self presentation, because every picture we take or we upload of us, it's with an intention, and most of the times the intention is to provoke um, people knowing us a little bit more. So it says that okay, so this causes narcissism, and the other mentions that yes, most of the narcissists they behave the same like on Facebook, but not all of us we are narcissists all the time. So what does it say? She's giving a lot of examples. So sometimes, like even if I have some notes, it is too much information that I don't want to skip anything. So that's why I am, like reviewing if I am skipping something. But here, like the author is mentioning that sometimes on social media we tend to lie. We tend to portray um, a better life that we have. And she even mentioned something that is the actual our actual life and what we hope for. So most of the times all our content is what we hope for, and when we have an imbalance and we when we are like in troubles, as example, she said like, okay, I remember those pictures that I took in my trip to Paris. They were so beautiful, but I didn't upload to my social media that during my trip I fight with my husband. So that's why she said that we tend to lie on social media. We tend to, like self inflation. So we can't, like say that we are more than we really are. And it says that, okay, so what can we do in order to, like be self aware and avoid self absorption absorptions, yeah. And she said that let's see. Oh, she said like we need to ask ourselves, like so many things. As an example, she said that sometimes, sorry, in a test, they gave 30 minutes to people for doing whatever they wanted on social media or on the internet. And most of the people, they were on their social media, like changing their profile picture or doing this or doing that. And other people were just, like randomly on the internet watching whatever. So they said, like, okay. But what we realize is that people who are not really narcissists, most of the times they tend to spend more time than really narcissists. Because, like people who are not narcissists, they said that they can learn and they can be in contact with other people, and not just that everything, like it's about them. So that's why it says that if you can ask yourself if the information that you will upload to the internet will teach something to your friends or not, in order to know if you are a me-former or an informer. So let's see what else. Oh, like the reason why some people that there are informers spend more time on social media, it says, social media allows me to see what people I care about are up to. I don't post on Facebook often, but I do try to share something uplifting or funny or different a few times a week. If I post a picture, it's more likely to be an eagle in a tree or a sunset, something beautiful that I can share with others. So that's what a unicorn is using social media for. And in order to be me formers, it is better to be informers, and that's why we need to cultivate humility. And that was example that I wanted to give you. So as examples, we have this girl that her name is Angela, and Angela wanted to be a fashion designer. So when she was in the right age, she started to study. But it doesn't matter how hard she worked, she realized that she wasn't as creative as the rest. So one time in an exam, her teacher gave her feedback, and very, very carefully and kindly, he said, like, hey, you really don't work for, like fashion designer. But what if you sell clothes? I think you will be really good at selling. So the author is saying that this girl was raised in a family where humility was one of the values. So in order to take that feedback in a bad way, she took it in the best way possible. And in order to, being stubborn about being a designer, she said, like, okay, I will do what my teacher told me. And that's why she said that she, was working for Burberry, that is a clothes brand. And because of the way she sold the clothes, she became very important, and Burberry won millions. So that's why even, like Apple wanted to hire her, but she said, like, sorry, I don't know how to sell, like phones. And Apple says, like, it's not necessary, like I just want you to help me how we can do it, because, oh, how we can be a team, because, like we are not playing in team. And she started to work with Apple, and at the end, like she did a great job, so she is earning a lot of money. So here it says, let's just read. uh, 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 uh. So it says here, let's just read all this Apple part. And it says, and when Apple CEO Tim Cook was interviewing her for the role of CVP of Apple's online and retail businesses, she made a point of stressing to him that she was neither a technical guru nor someone with an experience in the world of consumer electronics. Yet Cook knew he didn't need a tech whiz or a retail expert to turn around Apple's struggling retail division. What he needed was a team player, a selfless leader who could engage and inspire. So because she was very humble, she was selfless, all what she did was in order really to help to achieve the goal. So people saw that she was really, really doing it because she wanted to achieve that goal. And little by little, they start trusting in her. So that's why the author says that cultivating humility will help us to achieve our success. And if we continue doing it, we will receive also rewards. And it says, there is no question that humble people like Angela are objectively more successful, in part because their focus on other people makes them more liked and respected. Because they work hard and don't take things for granted. Because they admit when they don't have the answers. Because they are willing to learn from others versus stubbornly clinging to their views. As a result, people on teams with humble leaders are more engaged, more satisfied with their jobs, and less likely to leave. This is true particularly for senior leaders where narcissism is especially dangerous if they cannot learn to temper it. So we have here that, cultivating humility, we can also, overcome or go out from the call of self. And let's just move. Oh, okay, okay. So here it's talking that being humble, sometimes people think that you have low self-esteem, and it's not like that. So it could appreciate, or it could be seen as a weakness, and it's not a weakness. So that's why also the author mentions that, okay, if we have here that we need to grow, we need to cultivate humility. At the same time, you need to cultivate self-acceptance, because probably you won't be perfect, but it's okay not to be perfect. We are human beings, and that's why you have to accept yourself as you really are. It says, understanding our objectives, reality, and choosing to like ourselves anyway. So, how we can start accepting us? She says that it's, one step you can take is to better monitor your inner monologue. So, how do you speak to yourself? Maybe when you make a mistake, you call yourself useless, dumb, you don't know how to do anything. So she says, like, okay, whenever you are in a moment or you are very creative with yourself, what you have to do is ask, will you give the same feedback to somebody you like? So that's why she said, like, okay, we need to, better monitor our inner monologue. What else do we have? Oh, that is the end of the chapter. Okay, okay. So it says, making the decision to humbly but compassionately accept ourselves take courage. As one of our unicorns, an architect by training who is now a global technological director, explains, the problem is not being aware of yourself but loving the person you find out you are. I guess. You know? Imagine that, you are um you have a weakness that you cannot change. Even if you want to wake up early, you can't, and you can't. So really, you just to accept that you won't wake up early, but that's okay. So I think that is very complicated, but well, it's one of the steps that we have to complete in order to um like achieve to self-awareness, to that balance that we are looking for in order to improve our lives. It says, the more committed you are to build self-awareness, the more empathy and grace you learn to extend to yourself. So here we just finished the chapter with, oh, okay, it says that in the next chapters we will explore the often unseen obstacles to self insight. So we have that in the chapters we review the blind spots, We have some tips in order to overcome or to break those obstacles. And as well, we have that next chapters we will see the unseen, so we will continue with the obstacles. So as you may see, guys, we have a lot of information. I don't know if I talk about all of it. As I told you, I took some notes. I was thinking about how to explain this book because it is very interesting, but at the same time it has so many details that's why I like this book so much, because probably I understood some things, and when we discuss what we understand, probably there is a chance to maybe not change the perspective but to add something important that I didn't see. So, well, so far that will be it for the moment. Vocabulary, it's a little bit more challenging this time, but I think that we understood probably all the context. So you have your glossary in order to help you with vocabulary. And well, that will be it. So thank you so much. Continue having an excellent reading and see you later, guys. Bye.
We gather around and chat all day. New words to learn in every way. No fear of wrong, just give it a try. We're flying high like birds in the sky. From A to Z we say hello. Each day we watch our language grow. Together we will break the ice. In talk English we find paradise. Right now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. With laughter, jokes and stories told. In conversation, hearts unfold. We share, we learn, we understand. Building bridges hand in hand. No grammar rules can hold us still. We're climbing higher up that hill. Every sentence, every phrase in talk English, we like the blaze. In talk English, we like the blaze. Hey now, let's talk in English, hear us loud. Breaking barriers, tearing down the clouds. Every word's a step we're taking now. In this club we'll make each other proud. Hey now, let's talk in English.